Everyone knows the story. A golden island, advanced technology, rings of water. One day, one night, gone. But here's what nobody tells you. Every single location theory you've heard, built on guesses, ancient maps, Hollywood imagination. Not evidence, not the ground. We've been looking in the wrong places for 2,400 years. The real story sits in mud, in volcanic ash, in Mediterranean silt. Places where civilizations actually drowned, where tsunamis actually hit, where real people watched their cities sink. This isn't about Plato's metaphor. This is about where the evidence points when you stop chasing legends and start digging. 5 locations, 5 disaster sites, 5 places where something catastrophic actually happened. And one of them rewrites everything we thought we knew about where to look. If you value documented archaeological history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the International Ocean Discovery Program's Communications, Earth and Environment Journal published in December 2023, detailing seafloor drilling cores from 12 sites around Santorini and the marine Palmobera. Investigations documented in the Journal of Archaeological Science, published by Cambridge University Press in 2020, analyzing tsunami deposits at Palaikastro on Crete. These aren't Wikipedia summaries. These are peer-reviewed geological studies with depth measurements, sediment dating, and wave height calculations from actual excavation sites. Now back to the information. The Aegean Sea, the explosion that actually happened. Pumice layers up to 60 meters thick buried everything. The Minoan settlement at Akrotiri disappeared under ash in hours. Alaska, not Santorini. The Greenland Ice Core Chronology 2021 shifted that date. Archaeological pottery tells a different story. Late Minoan 1A on Crete aligns with Egyptian 18th dynasty. Stone vessels and shaft graves match New Kingdom types. The Amos Tempus Stellae describes catastrophe. Amos I took power around 1550 BC, or 1569 to 1548 BC, depending on which chronology you use. The archaeological window sits between 1550 and 1480 BC. 35 meters is 115 feet. That wave traveled 70 miles south. It demolished coastal settlements. It didn't end the Minoans immediately. New palace construction happened after the eruption. The culture survived another century or two. Mycenaeans from mainland Greece eventually conquered Crete around 1450 BC. The volcano weakened them. It didn't kill them outright. Plato wrote Timaeus and Critias around 360 BC. He places Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, meaning past Gibraltar in the Atlantic Ocean. Santorini sits inside the Mediterranean, wrong ocean. Plato says the island was larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined. Thera, before the eruption, was maybe 16 kilometers across at its widest point. Wrong size. Plato claims the sinking happened 9,000 years before Solon's visit to Egypt, around 594 BC, placing destruction at 9600 BC. Santorini erupted in the 2nd millennium BC. Wrong millennium. Then catastrophe, earthquake, tsunami, total destruction in less than a day. The collapse mechanism matches. The timeline doesn't. The location doesn't. The scale doesn't. Thera, Therasia, Aspernici form a ring around a marine caldera. Palea Kameni and Nea Kameni sit inside. Pumice deposits stretch across the eastern Mediterranean. Ash cores from Turkish lake beds show the heaviest fallout trailed northeast. 2 million tourists visit annually. They see cliffs, ruins under ash, a beautiful volcanic disaster that wiped out a Bronze Age culture. In 2022 and 2023, the International Ocean Discovery Program drilled cores at 12 sites around Santorini. The JOIDES resolution penetrated up to 900 meters under the seabed. They found massive pumice deposits, white volcanic debris, all dated to the same event, not the Minoan eruption, an eruption 520,000 years ago, 30 times bigger than the 1600 BC blast. A submarine explosion that hurled debris through 70 kilometers of water and broke through to air. The pumice layer reached 150 meters thick in places. No humans around to witness it. But the discovery highlights ongoing volcanic hazards in the center of Europe. Santorini rumbled in 2010 and 2011. Magma studies in 2020 and 2022 showed fresh accumulation. The volcano is dormant, not dead. Accused, buried, preserved. Plato's description. Ring formations. Central Island. Wickbolt published his findings. The images triggered investigations. Methane emissions from the site suggested sudden burial of massive organic material. Freund's theory, a tsunami struck the Atlantic coast, inundated the bay, and buried a settlement in mud and silt. If a similar event happened in antiquity, it could have submerged coastal communities permanently. The bay that existed near Cadiz in the Bronze Age is now swamp, sea level changes, tectonic shifts, sediment accumulation. a city could be down there. Refugee settlements preserving the architectural memory of the lost capital. National Geographic aired a documentary in March 2011 called Finding Atlantis, featuring the discovery. The media coverage exploded. The Spanish team had been excavating for years before Freund arrived. Hilarius Robles stated Freund was focused on his own theories about King Solomon's search for ivory and gold in Tartessos. The structures Wickbold identified on satellite imagery turned out smaller than expected or dated to the Muslim period. Not Bronze Age, not Atlantis. The Greek historian Ephorus described Tartessos in the 4th century BC, long after Solon's Egyptian trip, as a rich source of tin, copper, and gold. If Tartessos was still functioning in Ephorus's time, it couldn't be Atlantis, which supposedly sank 9,000 years before Solon. The timeline doesn't work, the evidence doesn't work, the publicity worked. Geologist Rainer Kuhne published a paper in Antiquity Journal in June 2004 proposing Tartessos equals Atlantis equals structures in Donana. His satellite analysis inspired the Spanish excavations starting in 2005. 2 expeditions followed, 1 week in July 2006, 5 weeks in August and September 2009. Freund contributed to geological and geophysical work during the second dig. The National Geographic film crew shot in November 2010, 8 days on location. Freund interviewed on November 8th. Hilarius Robles the next day. The documentary aired 4 months later with dramatic claims that shocked the original research team. Tourist groups now visit via donkey to avoid damaging wetlands. The Anglo-Hispanic Association, the Happy Little Donkey, runs the Donana Atlantis project. Their website receives 300,000 visits. Russian magazines published features. International interest persists despite inconclusive findings. Methane levels indicate organic material burial. Tsunami history exists along the Atlantic coast. Everything else is interpretation. Plato says, beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Cadiz sits just past Gibraltar. Location matches. He says larger than Libya and Asia Minor. The marsh covers 250 square kilometers. Wrong scale. He says 9,000 years before Solon. Tartessos existed in the 1st millennium BC. Wrong millennium. Destroyed, debated, unverified. He argues Cyprus itself provides supporting evidence. Copper deposits, extinct dwarf elephants, local festivals called cataclysmos, meaning deluge, place names preserving flood memories. The Mediterranean became isolated from the Atlantic. Evaporation exceeded inflow. The sea level dropped 2 to 3 miles below Atlantic levels. The Mediterranean turned into a desert dotted with saline lakes. Sediments from that period show massive salt deposits. When the barrier collapsed, catastrophic flooding refilled the basin. When the Gibraltar barrier broke, the flood drowned them. The Cyprus basin remained submerged ever since. His sonar scans from depths of 1470 to 1510 meters below mean sea level show what he interprets as artificial walls, foundations, and structures matching Plato's dimensions. Dr. C. Hubscher from the Geophysical Institute at University of Hamburg led investigations into salt tectonics and mud volcanism in the Cyprus basin. His team analyzed the same features Sarmast identified, their findings published in peer-reviewed journals. The linear formations are natural compressional folds caused by local salt tectonics. The angular shapes are slide scars with superficial compressional folds at the downslope end and sides. Natural geological processes, not architecture. Ocean Drilling Project. Leg 160 recovered sediment cores from sites 963, 965, and 966 south of Cyprus. Core depths 470 meters, 1506 meters, 1044 meters below sea level. These cores came from seabed at or above Sarmast's Atlantis depth. The stratigraphy shows Pleistocene and older marine sediments, continuous marine deposition for millions of years. No evidence of subaerial exposure, no evidence of habitation, no artifacts. The Mediterranean did dry up during the Messinian salinity crisis. It happened 5.5 million years ago. Humans didn't exist. Homo sapiens emerged roughly 300,000 years ago. Wrong species, wrong era. A civilization existing on a seabed that dried up millions of years before humans evolved cannot match a story about a city that supposedly sank 9,000 years before Solon. The mechanism contradicts. The timeline contradicts the evidence, contradicts the geology. Salt tectonics produce angular formations. Pattern recognition sees walls where geology made folds. Without artifacts, without exposed structures, without anything except sonar shadows of natural landforms, Cyprus Basin remains a geological curiosity, not Atlantis. During the Bronze Age, between 1900 and 900 BC, people built over 7,000 megalithic structures called Nuragic across the island, massive stone towers, fortress complexes, sacred sites. The largest, Nuragic, near Barumini, stands 15 meters tall with walls over 5 meters thick at the base. Corbelled chambers, defensive positions, sophisticated architecture. Many nuraghi in the Medio Campidano province below 1,600 feet elevation show catastrophic destruction, collapsed walls, burial under sediment, evidence of sudden violent impact. One theory, massive tidal wave. Tsunami deposits in coastal lowlands. The distribution pattern suggests wave heights capable of reaching inland valleys. Destruction layer dating to late Bronze Age. Timing coincides with documented Mediterranean seismic events. Proponents of Sardinia as Atlantis point to the Nuragic civilization's sophistication. Metallurgy, trade networks, bronze weapons, ships. Agricultural surplus supporting specialist craftsmen. Complex social hierarchy. Then sudden decline around 1200 BC. The culture survived but never recovered its power. Connectivity to the eastern Mediterranean collapsed. Construction stopped. Population decreased. Plato describes Atlantis with extensive plains. Sardinia's Campidano stretches 90 kilometers. Plato mentions elephants. Sardinia had none. Plato places the island beyond Gibraltar. Sardinia sits inside the Mediterranean. Wrong location. Plato describes concentric water rings. Sardinia has bays. Wrong layout. Around 1200 BC, sea peoples disrupted the eastern Mediterranean. Invasions, migrations, Bronze Age collapse from Anatolia to Egypt. The Nuragic culture faced external pressure. Climate change, resource depletion, raids, natural disaster compounded existing stresses. Multiple causes over extended time, not one wave in one day. The most recent claim with the deepest controversy. Dimensions and layout matching Plato's description. A rectangular monument at the center, possibly the Temple of Poseidon. Elaborately carved canals between the outer walls. Structures buried at depths exceeding 20 meters. An additional 5 to 15 meters of sediment likely covers the ruins. Total burial depth suggests antiquity of 10,000 to 12,000 years. The timing matches Plato's destruction date within the margin of archaeological interpretation. Tectonic activity explains sudden submergence. The 1755 Lisbon event proves local tsunami potential. Earlier events could have struck harder. Uniform width of several feet, stone construction under sediment, and marine growth. The southwest Iberian Peninsula, specifically the Gulf of Cadiz coast, shows flourishing culture during this period. Megalithic construction, maritime trade, advanced society, then catastrophe. Media coverage followed: Daily Mail, Yahoo News, Jerusalem Post, and the Archaeologist magazine. Each outlet reported the claim with varying degrees of skepticism. Tectonic folding produces linear features. Without excavation, without material samples, without rigorous scientific testing, the claim stays unverified. None convinced the academic mainstream. Donovan's discovery joins a long list of confident claims, based on suggestive but inconclusive data. But without artifacts, dates, and peer review, it remains speculation. Impressive speculation. Expensive speculation with documentary funding. Still speculation. 2025, Richard Freund's National Geographic findings from 2011 documented in Finding Atlantis, and comparative geological studies from the International Ocean Discovery Program's drilling cores published in Communications, Earth, and Environment in December 2023. Now back to the information. A single island, one civilization. But what if Plato synthesized multiple disasters? Bronze Age. Mediterranean experienced catastrophic events across centuries. Santorini erupted 1600 BC. The Sea Peoples destroyed coastal cities 1200 BC. Tsunamis hit regularly. Earthquakes reshaped shorelines. Civilizations rose and fell within lifetimes. Breaks mid-sentence. Scholars debate why. Old age, artistic difficulty. Many believe he never intended completion. The story served as allegory. Ideal state corrupted by hubris. Warning about imperial ambition. Philosophical exercise. Not history. Whole structure. 50 stades across, 9,200 meters. Engineers reading Plato see impossible harbor design. Those dimensions don't work hydraulically. Salt water stagnates. Currents fail. Layout defies practical engineering. In 2014, divers found 40 orichalcum ingots in a 2,600-year-old shipwreck near Sicily. February 2016, 47 more ingots recovered. The metal exists. Rare copper-zinc alloy. Romans depleted supplies. Plato's detail proved accurate. The Minoans vanished after Santorini. Their memory persisted. Their practices described in later accounts. Plato's Atlantis shares striking parallels with documented Minoan culture. Ancient tsunami events on Atlantic coast, earthquake destruction in Spain, all compressed into one narrative. 9,000 years meaning very old, not literally 9600 BC, old beyond memory. Memory shaped by cultural expectations, Athens at war with Sparta, democratic ideals challenged. Atlantis became the perfect enemy, cautionary tale, doomed empire. 35-meter tsunami hitting Crete, documented in excavation layers. Pumice across the eastern Mediterranean. Ash in Egyptian delta soil cores, once claimed, later debunked. But the volcano rewrote Aegean geography. 1600 BC fits late Minoan 1a. The archaeology proves catastrophic destruction. Plato said larger than Libya and Asia Minor. The timeline shows Bronze Age. Plato said 9600 BC. Unless Plato meant the event happened in deep antiquity and used 9000 as poetic exaggeration. Unless the Egyptian priests merged multiple disasters. Unless translation failed. Methane emission levels indicate rapid organic burial. Tsunami potential confirmed by 1755 Lisbon. Location matches beyond the pillars. The scale stays wrong. The timeline contested. The excavations incomplete. Salt tectonics. Slide scars. Natural processes. Pattern recognition seeing walls. Archaeology requires artifacts. Requires context. Requires evidence beyond shadows on sonar screens. The civilization existed. It thrived. It declined. Not Atlantis. Mediterranean. The claim awaits verification. A story absorbing real catastrophes from across the Bronze Age Mediterranean and Atlantic coast. Volcanic devastation, tsunami destruction, earthquake collapse, cultural decline, imperial ambition punished by nature, all compressed into one parable about a rich island that angered the gods. The Cadiz ruins requiring underwater archaeology with proper funding. A site yet undiscovered because we're scanning the wrong coordinates. Technology improves, sonar resolution increases, drilling reaches deeper. Satellite imagery sees through water and soil. New methods find what old searches missed. They found a 520,000-year-old eruption 30 times larger than the Minoan blast. A submarine explosion that nobody witnessed, but that reshaped the seafloor permanently. The discovery changed understanding of Mediterranean volcanic hazards. It didn't find Atlantis. It found something more important. Evidence of recurring catastrophic events that repeatedly destroyed civilizations in this region. The pattern matters more than the place. The Mediterranean spawns disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, tectonic plates converging, the African plate subducting under Eurasia, the Aegean Arc, the Calabrian Arc. The entire region sits on colliding geology. Cities built on coasts face recurring destruction. Cultures thrive, catastrophe strikes, survivors rebuild, memory fades, new civilizations rise. The cycle repeats. Helike on the North Peloponnese coast sank in 373 BC. Earthquake during a winter night, tidal wave. The entire city submerged. 10 ships anchored offshore pulled under. Pausanias visited the ruins 2 centuries later. Saw walls underwater. Pausanias wrote, Helike was engulfed by the sea. The disaster happened within Greek historical memory, documented by multiple sources. Classical writers referenced it repeatedly. No mystery. No legend. Actual catastrophe with named victims and dated destruction. The ruins lie in shallow water. Divers explore them. Archaeologists study them. Port Royal proves sudden submergence happens. Entered temple archives. Solon accessed it. Brought it home. Plato recorded it. We inherited it. Sardinia. The Nuragic culture matching the civilization, but not the submergence. Cadiz. The recent discovery matching multiple details, but awaiting scientific validation. Real catastrophes prove Atlantis could have existed. Impossible details prove it didn't exist as described. The genius of Plato's tale lies in that tension. Believable enough to keep people searching, impossible enough to stay unfound. The documentary promises more evidence. Academic archaeologists wait for peer-reviewed papers. Geologists wait for core samples. The pattern repeats. A warning about power, a reminder of nature's dominance. The story serves functions beyond history. Their city ended. Their culture absorbed the survivors. Memory of the disaster survived in stories. Those stories merged with other disaster stories. Eventually, one story dominated: Atlantis. The structures match Plato's description. How well they match requires detailed comparison. Science takes time. Media wants immediate answers. The disconnect creates controversy. When it does, communities on Santorini face the same fate as the Minoans. Modern early warning systems help. Evacuation plans exist. But the fundamental risk remains. Living on a volcano means accepting disaster as inevitable. Without artifacts, without excavation exposing artificial structures, the site offers nothing for archaeology. Oceanographers study salt tectonics there. Geologists analyze sediment cores. Nobody searches for Atlantis anymore. Nobody seriously argues Sardinia was Atlantis. The Bronze Age civilization existed. It thrived. It declined. It wasn't the lost city. It was the Nuragic culture. Real history, not legend. 300,000 website visits annually. International fascination endures. Definitive answers wait on future technology and funding and permission. Skeptics will demand evidence. Believers will claim vindication. The cycle continues. Truth stays contested. Or maybe the location does matter and we simply lack methods to prove it. Underwater archaeology advances slowly. Excavation beneath 20 meters of water requires specialized equipment. Diving deep costs money. Accessing protected sites needs permits. Removing sediment without destroying evidence demands expertise. The challenges explain why definitive proof remains elusive. In June 2025, BBC Science Focus published research on a real Atlantis-like land off Australia. During the last ice age, 21,000 years ago, Australia was 20% larger. Sea levels sat 120 meters lower. The continent of Sahel connected Australia to New Guinea and Tasmania. Over 10,000 years, melting ice raised oceans. Between 18,000 and 8,000 years ago, over 2 million square kilometers flooded. Coastlines retreated over 100 kilometers inland in places. Indigenous histories tell of drowning landscapes. Researchers believe these oral traditions record actual events. When flooding came, they fled inland, settlements drowned, the land split into separate islands. Real catastrophic sea level rise, real lost civilizations, real surviving stories. Not Mediterranean, not Atlantic, Australia. But the mechanism proves sudden submergence happens. Cultures lose entire regions to rising water. Memory preserves the loss. Dr. Casey Norman from Max Planck Institute of Geoanthropology led a study combining sonar data with computer modeling. 27,000 years ago, as the ice age began, sea levels dropped. Low-lying landscapes emerged. People inhabited them. Then 12,000 years ago, warming started. Ice melted. Seas rose. The landscapes drowned. High-resolution ocean floor maps show what existed before flooding. Valleys, river systems, potential settlement sites, now 200 meters underwater. If it existed, if one of these locations holds actual ruins, time destroys proof. Saltwater corrodes metals. Bacteria consume organics. Stone weathers. Without excavation and preservation, the truth vanishes. We're not just searching for what existed, we're racing against natural destruction of what remains. Sediment shifts. If the site contains artifacts, they degrade. Without immediate excavation and conservation, the evidence deteriorates. The same applies to Donana. Wetland chemistry breaks down organic material. Salt corrodes metals. Without recovery and treatment, artifacts disappear. By the time researchers identify a promising site and secure funding and obtain permits and mobilize teams, years pass. The site changes. What sonar detected erodes. What ground penetrating radar showed shifts. The window closes. Evidence lost to time. Sea peoples destroying cities 1200 BC, regular tsunamis, constant earthquakes. Each disaster left survivors. Each generated stories. Those stories merged over centuries into one dominant narrative. Atlantis absorbed them all. Impossible details prove it didn't exist as described. That tension keeps the search alive. Cadiz reminds us, promising evidence requires rigorous scientific validation before claims stick. The Donana team drilled core samples in August 2024, showing organic layers at Bronze Age depths. Pollen analysis indicates sudden environmental change. Sediment characteristics suggest rapid catastrophic deposition. Publication pending. Whether that flooding buried Atlantis or Tartessos or unnamed settlement awaits verification. Media reports discoveries. Academics urge caution. The cycle continues because the story serves purposes beyond history. A warning about hubris, a reminder of mortality, a mystery that drives technological innovation in underwater archaeology. Or until the next Mediterranean catastrophe buries our coastal cities. Then, future archaeologists will scan through our sediment layers debating our ruins. They'll face the same challenge: partial evidence, contested interpretations, competing theories, the search for truth in fragments. Every coastal settlement tsunami swallowed. Every volcanic island that exploded. Every earthquake city that collapsed. The name changes across cultures. The story stays the same. Human achievement meeting natural limits. Pride preceding fall. Memory outlasting monuments.